Hello everyone, welcome to our class. My name is Chen Lee. In today's sections, we will continue to talk about boot configurations and storage management. This is today's outline. We will show you boot environment essentials and managing startup, working with the BCD editors and boot configurations. Working with the BCD editors. The BCD store contains multiple entries. On a BIOS-based computers, you will see the following entries. One Windows boot manager entries. There's only one boot manager. So there is only one boot manager entries, one or more Windows boot loaders application entries, with one for each Windows Server 2008 operating systems, Windows Vista operating systems, or later versions of Windows installed on the computers. One legacy operating system entries. The legacy entry is not for boot applications. This entry is used to initiate NTLDR and boot.ini, so that you can put into Windows XP or an earlier release of Windows. If the computer has more than one Windows XP or earlier operating systems, you will be able to select the operating system to start after selecting the legacy operating system entry. Windows Boot Manager is itself a bootloader application. There are other bootloader applications, including legacy OS loaders, identified as NTLDRs, Windows Vista or later operating system loaders, identified as OS loaders, Windows boot sector applications, identified as boot sectors, firmware boot managers, identified as FW boot MGR, and Windows resumed loaders, identified as resumed. And you can directly view and manage the BCD stores using the BCD editor and bcdedit.exe. The BCD editor is a command line utility. You can use the BCD editor to view the entries in the BCD store by following these steps. First, click Start. Click All Programs, and then click Accessories. Second, right-click Command Prompt and then select Run as Administrator. Third, type BCD Edit at the command prompt. And table summarize commands you can use when you are working with the BCD store. Table commands for the BCD editors. These commands allows you to create, import, export, and identify the entries BCD stored. Create, delete, and copy individual entries in the BCD stored. Set or delete entries option values in the BCD store. Control the boot sequence and the boot manager. Configure and control emergency management services, EMS. Configure and control boot debugging as well as hypervised debugging. Managing the boot configuration data stores and its entries. The BCD editor is an advanced command line tool for viewing and manipulating the configuration of the pre-operating system boot environment. Although I discussed tasks related to modifying the BCD data stores in the sections that follows, you should attempt to modify the BCD store only if you are an experienced IT pro. As a safeguard, you should make a full backup of the computer prior to making any changes to the BCD stores. Why? If you make a mistake, your computer might end up in a no bootable state, and you will then need to initiate recovery. Viewing BCD entries, computers can have systems and non-system BCD stores. The system BCD store contains the operating system boot entries and related boot settings. Whenever you work with the BCD editor, you will be working with the system BCD stores. On a computer with only one operating system, the BCD entries for your computers, BCD entries for Windows, boot managers, and Windows bootloaders have similar properties. And these properties include those summarized in BCD entry property tables. And you can see the properties include descriptions, device, file device, identifiers, etc. When you are working with the BCD store and the BCD editors, you will see references to well-known identifiers, as well as globally unique identifiers, GUIDs. When the GUID is used, the GUID has the following format, where each N represents a hexadecimal value. The dashes that separate the parts of the GUID must be entered in the positions shown. And here are some well-known identifiers. For example, boot MGR. Identifiers indicates the Windows boot manager entries. Current identifier represents a virtual identifier that corresponds to the operating system boot entries for operating systems that is currently running. When a computer has additional Windows Vista, Windows Server 2008, or later operating systems installed the BCD store for have additional entries for each additional operating systems. For example, the BCD store might have one entry for the Windows boot manager and one Windows bootloaders for each operating systems. When the computer has a legacy operating system installed, the BCD store has 3 entries. One for the Windows boot manager, one for the Windows legacy OS loader, and one for the Windows bootloader. Creating and identifying the BCD store using the BCD editors, you can create a new non-system BCD store by using the following commands: BCD edit /create store path, where store path is an actual folder path to a location where you want to create a non-system store, such as BCD edit /create store C /non-systems/BCD. On an EFI system, you can temporarily set a system store device using the /sysstore command. Use the following syntax: BCD edit /sysstore store device, where store device is the actual system store device identifier. The device must be a system partition. Note that this setting does not persist across reboots and is used only in cases where the system store device is ambiguous. Importing and exporting the BCD stores. The BCD editor provides separate commands for importing and exporting the BCD store. And you can use the /export commands to export a copy of the system BCD store's contents to a specified folders. Use the following command syntax: BCD edit /export store path, where store path is the actual folder path to which you want to export a copy of the system store, such as BCD edit /export C /backup /BCD. To restore an exported copy of the system stores, you can use the /import command. Use the following command syntax: BCD edit /import import path, where import path is the actual folder path from which you want to import as a copy of the system stores, such as BCD edit /import C /backup /BCD. On an EFI systems, you can add or clean to the import to specify that all existing firmware boot entries should be deleted. Here's an example: and BCD edit /import C /backup /BCD and /clean, and creating, copying, and deleting BCD entries. The BCD editor provides separate commands for creating, copying, and deleting entries in the BCD stores. You can use the /create command to create identifiers, applications, and inherit entries in the BCD store. To create identifier entries, you use the following syntax: BCD edit /create identifier /d descriptions, where identifier is a well-known identifier for the entries you want to create, such as BCD edit /create ntloader /d. Earlier Windows OS loaders. And you can create entries for specified bootloader applications as well, including boot sectors, a real mode boot sector applications, used to set the boot sectors for real mode applications, OS loaders, and operating system loader applications, used to load the Windows Vista or Windows Server 2008 operating systems. Resumed. A Windows Resume loader applications used to resume the operating system from hibernations. Startup. A real mode applications used to identify a real mode applications. And use the following command syntax: BCD edit /create /application type /d descriptions, where application type is one of the previously listed application types, such as BCD edit /create /application OS loader /d Windows Vista. And you can delete entries in the system store using /delete commands and the following syntax: BCD edit /delete identifier. And if you are trying to delete the well-known identifiers, you must use the /f commands to force deletions. So such as bcdedit /delete ntldr/f. By default, the /cleanup options is implied, and this means the bcdedit editor cleans up any other references to the entries being deleted. This ensures that the data store doesn't have invalid references to the identifier you removed it. As entries are removed from the display orders as well, this could result in a different default operating system being set. If you want to delete the entries and clean up all other references except for the displayed order entries, and you can use the /non-cleanup command. Setting BCD entry values after you create an entry. You will then need to set additional entry option values as necessary. The basic syntax for setting value is bcdedit /set identifier option value, where the identifier is the identifier of the entries to be modified. Option is the options you want to set, and value is the option value, such as bcdedit /set current device partition equal D. To delete options and their values, use the /delete value command with the following syntax: bcdedit /delete value identifier options, where identifier is the identifier of the entries to be modified, and option is the option you want to delete, such as bcdedit /delete value current bad memory list. When you are working with options, Boolean values can be entered in several different ways. For truth, you can use 1, on, yes, or true. For false, you can use 0, off, no, or false. To view the BCD entries for all boot utilities and values for settings, type bcdedit /enum or /v at an elaborated command prompt. This command enumerates all BCD entries regardless their current state and lists them in a verbose mode. Each additional entry has a specific purpose and lists the value that you can set, including the following: resume from HipNet. The resume from the HipNet entry shows the current configurations for the resume features. And Windows Memory Tester. The Windows Memory Tester entry shows the current configurations for the Windows Memory Diagnostic utility. And Windows Legacy OS Loaders. The Windows Legacy OS Loader entries shows the current configurations for the loading of earlier versions of Windows. EMS Settings. The EMS Settings entry shows the configurations used when booting with emergency management services. And Debugger Settings. The Debugger Settings entry shows the configurations used when booting with the debugger turned on. Hypervisor Settings. The Hypervisor Settings entry shows the configurations used when working with the hypervisors with the debugger turned on. Here shows the key options for boot application entries. Most of them are Boolean values and integer numbers. Options allows you to configure the boot applications, such as baud rate, to define the baud rate for the serious debuggers. Boot EMS allows you to enable or disable emergency management services. And table summarize key options that apply to entries for boot applications and boot APP. As Windows boot managers, Windows memory diagnostic, Windows OS loaders, and Windows resume loaders are boot applications. These options apply to them as well. And here shows the key options that apply to entries for Windows OS loader applications. Most of them are also Boolean value and integer numbers. And you can enable boot initialization log by setting boot log true. And you also can set a private kernel name through kernel value. And here are some other important options for loader applications. Table summarize key options that apply to entries for Windows OS loader applications. And changing data execution, preventions, and physical address extensions options. Data execution preventions, DEP, is a memory protection technology. With DEP enabled, the computer's processors marks all memory locations in an application as non-executable unless the location explicitly contains executable code. If code is executed from a memory page marked as non-executable, the processors can raise exceptions and prevent the code from executing. This behavior prevents malicious applications code such as virus code from inserting itself into most areas of memories. For computers with processors that support the non-execute NX page protection features, you can configure the operating system to opt in to NX protections by setting the NX parameters to options or opt out of NX protections by setting the NX parameters to opt out. When you configure NX protections to options, DEP is turned on only for essential Windows programs and services. This is the default when you configure NX protections to opt out. All programs and services, not just standard Windows programs and services, use DEP. Programs that shouldn't use DEP must be specifically opt out. You can also configure NX protections to be always on or always off, using always on or always off. Processors that support and opt in to NX protections must be running in PAP mode. You can configure PAP by setting the page parameter to default, force enable or force disabled. When you set page state to default, the operating system will use default configurations for PAE. When you set page state to force enable, the operating system will use PAE. When you set page state to force disable. The operating system will not use PAE. And you can set debug option enabled to true or false. Changing the operating system display orders. You can change the display order of boot managers associated with a particular Windows Vista, Windows Server 2008, or later operating systems using the /display_order command. The syntax is bcdedit /display_order ID1, ID2, IDN, where ID1 is the operating system identifiers of the first operating systems in the displayed order. ID2 is the identifier of the second, and so on. Thus, you could change the display order of operating systems identified in these BCD entries. You can set a particular operating systems as the first entries using /@first with /display_order. And you can set a particular operating system as the last entries using /@last with /display_order. Changing the default operating system entries, you can change the default operating system entries using the /default command. The syntax for this command is bcdedit /default ID, where ID is the operating system ID in the bootloader entry. Thus, you can set the operating system identifier in the BCD entries as the default. Changing the default timeout, you can change the timeout value associated with the default operating systems using the /timeout command. Set the /timeout command to the desired wait time in seconds, such as bcdedit /timeout 30. The boot automatically to the default operating system set the timeout to 0 seconds. And changing the boot sequence temporarily, occasionally, you might want to boot to a particular operating system one time and then revert to the default bootloader. To do this, you can use the /boot sequence command. Follow the command with the identifier of the operating system to which you want to boot after restarting the computer. When you restart the computer will set the specified operating systems as the default for that restart only. Then when you restart the computer again, the computer will use the original default bootloader.